camps of God. So let me ask you a question. You're saved, right? You're born again. Your name is written on the Lamb's Book of Life. I'm asking you a question. Is it true? And of course, everyone will say yes. Okay, if it's true, and your name's on the Lamb's Book of Life, you are going to New Jerusalem. Which gate of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel do you enter New Jerusalem with? Did you know that there's 12 gates on New Jerusalem? New Jerusalem is the heaven. It's the bride coming down. And when it does, it's the camp of the saints. The camp of the saints is the title of the video. As you can see, we're going to go through it. How do we understand this and its significance? The camp of the saints is the ordering of people in worship around Yahweh, around the Most High. And it is the final redemption, of course, is New Jerusalem. However, we have the camp of the saints happening many times, and in doing so, it shows the pattern of the throne, it shows the order of the people. Okay, so, for example, the camp of the saints. We're going to use some words. We're gonna show you some things. We have a trumpet. We have the breastplate. We have the shekel of the sanctuary. We're going to show you all these things. But as we get started, we're going to plant a seed about, everybody that believes in a pre-tribulation rapture, okay, quotes from 1 Corinthians 15. And here we are, 1 Corinthians 15. It is a chapter dealing with the resurrection. That's the word that Apostle Paul uses when he is detailing the resurrection here in 1 Corinthians 15. Then in verse 23, it says, "But every man in his own order." And the usage of this word order in the Greek that Apostle Paul is using is very important. It is the camp of the saints. The word in Greek is tagma. And the word that Apostle Paul is using is the word that is using when the children of Israel encamped around the ark and the tabernacle in Numbers chapter 1 and 2. So when they were ordered, they are ordered by tribes. And those tribes, each tribe was a camp, and each camp was called a tagma, or an order, a tagma of the tribe of, etc. Okay, Christ at his first fruits, afterwards they that are Christ at his coming, parousia. Okay, so at his coming, all right, the elements of the Exodus, or the camp of the saints, is what happens, guys. That's what happens. What happens is there's an order that takes place, and this is what Apostle Paul is talking about. So that when we have the sound of the trumpet, of the last trumpet, in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 51, "Behold, I show you a mystery, we shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump." Okay, so last, okay, in the Greek is, telos? Trump, or salpingex in the Greek, all right? For the trumpet shall sound, salpizo. And as well, guys, when the children of Israel were assembled in the wilderness and they traveled by instructions of trumpets. Okay, so trumpets were blown, and they were given the instructions of when they were to move, what tribe moves, what tagma in the order is, okay? "For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible." This is the resurrection. Okay, so what he is using, Apostle Paul is using the language of the tribes of the children of Israel in describing the resurrection. All right, now, in our topic of the camp of the saints, what we want to do is we want to actually look at. We're going to show you many times this happens, of course, but we want to start in the beginning when we first see the camp of the saints being ordered and being structured. Okay, and we're going to go here to Genesis chapter 32 and 33, and this is Jacob. All right, so this is Jacob. He has left Laban, okay, after the service of the wife 7 years, Leah 7 years, Rachel 6 years for the livestock, right? So he's left them. All right, now he's going throughout the land, and he begins to form the camp of the saints. So let's look at it. Jacob went on his way, verse 1, and the angels of God met him. Okay, the angels of God met Jacob after he left Laban. All right, and Jacob saw them and said, "This is the Lord's or God's camp." It says host in King James, but it's camp. Okay, Hanea. All right, and he called the name of the place Mahanaim, which is plural for the Hebrew word camp. And so when we see the camp of the saints in Revelation 20, verse 8 or 9, in the millennium when Christ is reigning, there's a beloved city, and there is something called the camp of the saints. That's why we're getting the title of this is from Revelation 20. So the word camp there in the Greek is the same word that is used in the Septuagint here. Peribole, something like that. Vole, something like that in the Greek, all right? But in Hebrew, it's called Mahanaim. Okay, so let's pay close attention to what happened. Jacob is leaving. He left Laban. He is going. He has 11 of the sons born at this time. Okay, he's going. And the angels of God, so the Most High is giving the order of the camp of the saints and instructions to Jacob. All right, and he's getting, the angels visit him, right? And basically what happens is he is going to run into his brother Esau. He's in that place, in that territory, and he is, he's nervous. Jacob is nervous, all right? So he sends messengers. In the Hebrew, messengers is melech, angels, to go before him. Now, this is literal people. These are Jacob's people. To go before him, to go to Esau, find Esau, all right, and find out where his brother is in the country, okay? And so what happens is Esau is going to visit Jacob, and he comes to visit him with 400 men. So Jacob is terrified. He believes that Esau is amassing an army, okay, and he's going to kill Jacob and wipe out his family. So Jacob is even though he just saw the angels of God that are with him, you know, he's nervous about this whole situation. So Jacob is just absolutely the best because he's like us, you know. Verse 7, Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him, the flocks, the herds, the camels, into 2 camps. Again, camps. All right. So he is concerned that if he stays with all of the camps, all his livestock, everything, he's going to be destroyed by Esau. This is what Jacob is thinking, right? So he kind of splits them up into 2 groups. And then we hear about his prayer, and he cries out to the Most High in his distress. Okay, and then we're going to jump over to verse 22. And he rose up in the night, and he took his 2 wives and his 2 woman servants and his 11 sons. Okay, so he goes to a place and he begins to divide them up. Now, what happened, guys, is Leah and Rachel, all right, at this point, both Leah and Rachel have themselves had their sons, not Benjamin yet. and their maid servants. So what's talking about is the two women servants. This is Zilpah and Bilhah, who also were raised up as sons of the 12 sons of Israel, right? So what Jacob is doing is his principle. He is dividing up the camp into two groups based on the two wives. This is very, very important. This is an important thing I want to establish here, right? So he does this. He kind of splits them up, and then Jacob goes alone to a place, and this is where the famous story where Jacob wrestles with God. Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. This is verse 24. Okay, and for many people, they are curious about this. Who is this man? Well, obviously, this man is coming from the camp of the host in verse 1. Okay, so Jacob is operating with the heavenly host, okay, and then one of those he wrestles, okay, and then he asks for a blessing, and the blessing, your name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. Okay, so now we have Israel. So Israel is the new name of Jacob, and we get this right here, see? So in Jacob's distress of the dealings with Esau, and in the camp of the saints. So in the midst of the camp of the saints, revelation that Jacob is exhibiting, he may not totally understand it, but he is acting it out. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Now, I encourage you to look up Expedition Bible on YouTube, Joel Kramer. He actually identifies and shows where this place is believed to be. I believe he makes a strong case for Peniel in this exact location on the Jabbok River. Okay? Now, so Jacob, he wrestles with God, he wrestles with the angel of the host, and becomes blessed, gets his new name. Okay, then we get to chapter 33. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau is coming. Okay, he's coming with 400 men. And he divided the children of Leah and of Rachel into the two handmaidens. So you see, he's dividing them up by Leah and Rachel. And he put the handmaidens and their children foremost. So the handmaidens is it's two handmaidens, and they have 4 sons. Anyway, we'll discuss that as we go. So they go first, okay? Then Leah and her sons, they go next. Then Rachel and Joseph, they go last, okay? So, and he passed over then and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Oh, phew. Okay. Good. Esau wasn't mad and wasn't going to kill them. All right. And then they continue in this order, okay? And then verse 6, the handmaidens came near and their children, and they bowed themselves to Esau. Leah with her children came near and bowed themselves. And then came Joseph and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. See, so there's an order of what is happening where he has split them in 2 groups, and now what's happening is an order where the handmaidens, they are going first, then we get Leah, then we get Rachel. Okay. So there we have the aspect of the camp of the saints happening with the revelation and importance of the mothers. So all the tribes are basically into 2 groups based on the mothers, based on either Leah or Rachel. All right. Now, then what happens is we're going to jump over to verse 17. We're in the same chapter. And now what we're going to do is talk about what we call the shekel of the sanctuary. So in the camp of the saints, we have all this ordering that takes place. And all these are elements, okay, of different things that happen when the Most High does this. The trumpet, okay, the coin, okay, we call the shekel of the sanctuary. All right, the breastplate and the 4 cardinal points. Now what we have is that the latter part of Genesis 33, okay, Jacob has got his new name. He's now Israel. And now what's happening is he is prophetically acting out the temple in Jerusalem. Obviously, the temple in Jerusalem is nowhere near coming into fruition until David. However, Jacob ends up doing something where he builds a house. Okay, he journeyed to Sukkot. Sukkot means tents or booths. And he built a house and made booths for his cattle. And the name of the place is Sukkot. Okay, Sukkoth. And that's the same name as the feast of Sukkot. And then it says Jacob came to Shalem, all right, in the King James, Shalem. Now that Salem, all right, is the root word of Jerusalem. So it's Jerusalem. Now, it's not literally Jerusalem. It's not in that place at all. It's in the city of Shechem, which is a total different location. Shechem is basically the Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal, okay, which we will see later. All right. But he came to Salem. And so what's happening is he's building a house prophetically in Salem, in Jerusalem. Okay, and that's the thing about the camp of the saints. It will always be, the camp of the saints will always be around the Lord's throne. All right, and when he came from Padam, he pitched his tent before the city. And he brought a parcel of the field where he had spread his tent and that land of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. All right, 100 pieces of money here in the Hebrew is kashita, okay, and kashita. Now, what kashita means is it's the coin, and the coin is part of the counting of the people. All right, and so this is prophetically a redeeming of Zion, okay, and Jacob erected there an altar called El Eliyahu Israel. So, whenever you get the camp of the saints, what's in the middle, okay, is, whether it be the tabernacle or whether it be the temple, the Ark of the Covenant, his throne, and it's also the altar. So here we see in Genesis the precedent of the understanding that we can gain of what is the camp of the saints and what principles are established first and where do we find them later. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to show you examples of where this happened and how the mothers factor in, how the cardinal points, okay, and the breastplate that's happening on the high priest, okay, we see the high priest breastplate is also this camp of the saints, and the coin. Now, in the book of Exodus, the high priest breastplate is Exodus 28. Where the revelation of what we're calling the camps of the saints with the stones and the high priest breastplate is in Exodus chapter 28. In Exodus chapter 30, the coin comes into. You will take a sum, okay, and you will give a half a shekel, okay. The rich will not give more, the poor will not give less, and we get this half shekel, and then the people are counted and they're numbered, okay, in the camp of the saints. So now, let's take a look. I have further notes to thus go over the many times that this has happened. Okay, the next time we have the camp of the saints with the most information and order, of course, is the Exodus. And what will happen is the children of Israel camped and built a tabernacle. And after the tabernacle was built, the order of where the tribes were to encamp in the desert around the tabernacle was given in Numbers chapter 1 and 2. And so we are trying to represent that here. And you can read about this, but basically what it says is they encamp in order. To the east was Judah. And when they encamped, there were certain things that were done and orders that the Most High placed, including the tagma order. So tagma is the Greek word, and if you read the Greek in the Numbers chapter 2, for example, it says the tagma order of Judah. They assembled with their leader. So there were 12 leaders, okay, just like there are 12 apostles in New Jerusalem. Okay, there are 12 leaders, and there was a banner. And so what we're doing here is we're showing you the names of the tribes, how they were ordered, and we're showing what is possibly their banner. We don't know for sure, but basically we are getting the banner or the insignia for the tribe over in Genesis chapter 49 and Deuteronomy chapter 33. At which point Judah is the lion. We know that Christ said, lion of the tribe of Judah. Okay, we know that. And so what happens is we end up getting this order and structure that's taking place around the tabernacle. So this is the tabernacle in the middle in yellow. Okay, and it is pointing towards the east. You can see east. So Judah east. And then the tribe of Levi encamped in the area in the middle. Moses encamped with Gershom, Merari, and Kohath. That's the priesthood. Okay, and he was able to speak to all the tribes in this area. Okay, so the leaders would assemble over here in the east, and what we have here is gates. These are gates, so it didn't look exactly like this, but we're represented this way, where you have a gate, and that was facing towards the tabernacle. And then you had another one when they went outside. Okay, so there's 12 gates, just like New Jerusalem. So New Jerusalem has 12 gates of the 12 tribes. Okay, and then we have an insignia. So Judah, lion, Issachar, donkey, Zebulun, ship, Reuben, man, Gad, troop, Ephraim, ox, Benjamin, wolf, Dan, eagle, holding a serpent, Asher, bread, Naphtali, deer. We don't know these exactly, but the reason we highlight in yellow is we have the faces of the living creatures: lion, ox, man, eagle. So the children of Israel are encamping around the tabernacle in the order of the throne. And so in the tabernacle was the Ark of the Covenant and was the throne. And of course, Levi had the Urim and Thummim. And so that's why we believe that the order of the breastplate with the Urim and Thummim is in the same way that the camps were ordered around the tabernacle. Okay, so that's why in our view the breastplate is in a way representing the tribes as they assemble in the wilderness around the tabernacle. All right, so we have this structure, and we're going to show you all the times that this happens again. But as we mentioned, the importance before about the mothers. So over here, you see Leah, and Leah had handmaiden Zilpah. And so Zilpah gave birth to Gad and Asher. And then Rachel had was at the time she was barren, and she had her handmaiden Bilhah, and Bilhah had two sons, Dan and Naphtali. Now, in a general sense, what happens, guys, just like Jacob did two camps, you will see that over here, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Reuben, Simeon, and Zilpah, all of these are in the order of Leah. You see? So Leah is the mother of those sons, and then over Gad is Zilpah, who is Leah's handmaiden. And then we can see over here, Rachel, Ephraim, Manasseh, sons of Joseph, Benjamin, and then Bilhah, Dan, and Naphtali are Rachel's handmaidens. So just like Jacob went into camps, we have a similar thing happening here. It's not going to always happen perfectly, because in this case we got Zilpah over here. This is Asher, and Asher is Leah is through Zilpah, Leah's handmaiden. All right, but in a general sense, we have that pattern. That's why we want to establish that over there. Now, the next thing that happens in the camp of the saints, okay, is when the children of Israel then packed up their camp and then began to move. Okay, so when they pack up and they move, they obviously cannot go in the same order. They cannot just all go. They have to go in a formation. And so this is where the trumpet blows. So the trumpet is blown, and that indicates when they are to begin marching. And so when they begin to march, they obviously cannot all go in the whole camp all at once. They have to go in an order. And so then we get that order here. I apologize if you can't see, but basically, if I hold it up, you can see we get east and we get Judah first. So this is in Numbers 10. So we have the encampment like this. This is when they all encamped. And then when they begin marching, it gives the instructions to blow the trumpet when they begin marching. You see? So this is the language Apostle Paul is using. He's using this trumpet. He's using the tagma order. So then the one trumpet blows for Judah and the east goes. Then two trumpet blasts for Reuben and the south goes. And then you have the ark after Reuben, Simeon, Gad in the middle. So you got 6, Kohath with the ark. Now you got other priests, Gershom, Merari, they're packing up the tabernacle there. And then after that follows Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin, west, Dan, Asher, Naphtali. Okay? So what's happening is that a perfect order goes where a trumpet is sounded, and then Judah goes, okay, with Issachar, Zebulun. Two trumpets blow, south, Reuben, Simeon, Gad. Okay? And then the rest just follow. Okay? And so what happens is we actually have another structure here where we have an encampment around the tabernacle, but then you have another one, okay, which is the marching. Okay, now I have to move this a little bit to try and get the whole thing on the screen so you can see it. All right. There we go. And now you can see what we did is we have the order, you see. Now, this is not literal, guys. Please don't take this as literal. I'm just showing you that the tribes marched per tribe. It's not square like this. And guys, I know it's become popular. Chuck Missler, and if anyone comments, say, oh, you know, Leeland, they form a cross. No, they don't. That's not true. Moses was able to address all the tribes here. And so you can't extend tribes art and far distance. They all could see the smoke. They all could see. So they all were facing the tabernacle. Okay. I don't think Chuck Missler meant that to be literal and for hundreds of people to, you know, repeat that. I don't think so. But anyway, so now you can see as the children of Israel are marching, they are marching, right, in order of the tribes. And what is in the middle? In the middle is the Ark of the Covenant. Well, in the millennium, you can see that the tribes also form where you have those north and those south of Jerusalem. And so we're illustrating that the camp of the saints means that you're marching. One order of the camp is you're marching. You're going one tribe after another. You're marching to a destination. You're not there, right? And that is what's happening in the millennium. So in the millennium, we have the order of the tribes, and they're actually somewhat with the mothers again. But again, this, even in the millennium, when Christ reigns in 1,000 years, this is called the camp of the saints. And it's also in Jerusalem, which we'll show you. But what we're doing is it's a situation where they're actually occupying the land promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but it's not the final promised land. The final promised land is Abraham looked for a city whose builder and maker was God. That is New Jerusalem. So this is, even though this is 1,000 years in the order of the tribes, you can see it's a similar way happening in the march. Where are you marching towards? The millennium is not the final end. It's marching towards New Jerusalem. Okay? So New Jerusalem is the final. But it is a camp of the saints. It talks about the millennium. in Revelation chapter 20. The camp of the saints is what it looks like. Okay, so there we've established what this looks like, right? So that just like we've seen with the high priest breastplate, we've seen the order of the trumpet blowing, okay, the order of the coin, the shekel of the sanctuary, okay, and we can now go through the other times this has happened. So we see the marching order in the Exodus, how it relates to the millennium. All right, now that's the Exodus. And what we're doing here is now we're representing this in a way where you're seeing this happen multiple times. So we talked about Genesis 32, 33, where Jacob did this. We talked about the Exodus. These are times in the past. Now we're talking about the present. Now in the present, it's Revelation 7 and 14. It's the 144,000. You see, they form the same thing. They form the same structure of the 12 tribes. You see the same order of the mothers, okay, with the order of the cardinal points relating to a mother. Leah, okay, Bilhah, Zilpah, Rachel over here on the west. So they end up forming a structure of the 12 tribes that is just like the Exodus. Now, I saw someone else point this out, but you actually start counting and you divide up just like Jacob did into 2 camps in order to do this. So Judah is first at east, at this position east. Then you have Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh. Okay, so that's half. Then you start over here back in east with Simeon. And you go Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. So when you do that with the 2 groups, right, like Jacob did the 2 groups, that's how you come up with this order. And when this order comes up, now you can see Leah is positioned, Rachel is positioned. All right, perfect order. All right, then what this does is this happens again. So in the millennium, we showed you that the tribes are ordered in a way of marching, just like marching in the wilderness. And then at the center is Jerusalem. And the tribe of Levi is in the center. And what's in the center is the temple. And then the temple has something else called the city. And the city has 12 gates of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. And what happens is we actually have an order of Leah over here in the east and south in both the Exodus and the 144,000. Then in the millennium, it slightly changes. Or over here in the east, we have Rachel. Okay. And Rachel is over here with Bilhah on the east. Okay, Leah stays the same in the south. And then Leah, that was over here, moves towards the north. Reuben, Judah, Levi. And then west is Zilpah and Bilhah. Okay, so we get a slight different order in what's called the city. You can read about this in Ezekiel 48. And again, this is for the millennial reign of Christ. There's the temple, and outside of the temple precinct area is another thing called the city. Now, this is for the future. So we have 2 things in the future. We have the millennial city. We have the tribal allotments. The other thing I want to point out, guys, is when the children of Israel entered the promised land with Joshua, I believe the Most High actually had this perfect order that they should divide up, right? But if you look at what they did not follow this at all. Moses gave them the instructions of where the north was and everything, and they just didn't follow it. They just did something totally different. Left side, you see the territory the children of Israel took with Joshua, and they took land on the east side on the right side of the Jordan River. They weren't supposed to. And you see the perfect order that we see in the millennium. And so I wanted to show you that in 2 photos. Okay. But there's a perfect order. That's what I'm hoping you see. There's an actual perfect order of the Most High. He does things in perfect order. Okay, so in the millennium, we get this. Now, in the millennium, this is not permanent. So that afterwards, after 1,000-year reign of Christ, then we come to New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem has no end. And what we believe is that through the breastplate and through the stones that are on the high priest's breastplate, we are able to come up with the same stones that will represent New Jerusalem. So because we have the high priest breastplate, we got the stones related to tribes, then we believe we could come to terms with what those tribes are in New Jerusalem. It doesn't say it. It doesn't say it in Revelation. Revelation 21 talks about 3 tribes of the east, 3 tribes of the north, 3 tribes of the south, 3 tribes of the west. Well, if we apply the 144,000, that actually works in a perfect order. But we were able to line up what we believe is the 12 tribes in New Jerusalem based on the city. And it comes almost exact as the city with one exception. So you can see over here in the city, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, towards the east. And that's what we have in New Jerusalem. Joseph, Benjamin, Dan. Zebulun, Issachar, Simeon. In the south, Zebulun, Issachar, Simeon. Exact. Over here in the north, Levi, Judah, Reuben. And the same thing here in the city, Levi, Judah, Reuben. And we've been able to come up with this with the gemstones. And then over here towards the west, we have a slight difference. Where in the city, we have Gad, Asher, Naphtali. And here we have Naphtali, Gad, Asher. Okay, so that again, Zilpah, being the mother of Gad and Asher, stays the same. Okay, but they seemingly move down, and Naphtali moves up. So besides that, we actually have a exact order of what we see in New Jerusalem. Okay, so that New Jerusalem will have similar things to the Exodus, right? Because then you have gates on the outside of the 12 tribes. You have the 12 leaders, which are the 12 apostles. They're camped, okay, in a cardinal point, okay? And we have the tribal names, okay? So how the city works is whatever tribe you are, when you enter New Jerusalem, there's a gate on the outside and you enter the city. And then the area inside the city pertains to your tribe. You see, so you come out, if you come out and leave New Jerusalem, you live in, okay, that tribal area, and you come and go through there, you see. So you leave and come and go through the same one. All right, so now hopefully you can see there's a perfect order of what we're calling the camp of the saints. And that you can see this camp of the saints in this order that we're showing it you happen 4 times. Okay, so when the Lamb stands on Mount Zion in Revelation 14, it's in the perfect order. It's called the camp of the saints. You have a city in Christ reigning in the millennium, 1,000 years. You have the same order, 12 tribes. And then in New Jerusalem, you have the same order, okay, 12 gemstones, okay, of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. All right. So guys, thanks for watching. This is Camp of the Saints. This is on a playlist called Show the Pattern, Measure the Design. Thanks for watching. God bless.